Okay, I want to just go over some notes or some general thoughts I have for the abstract, and then for the things you can include in the appendices for the proposal. Really quickly, I thought about sending out some sample cover letters for inquiry or cover pages, some of the different things that they mentioned in the reading. But in the Karsh book, the only grant writing book you'll ever need, in the appendices for that book, actually, in the back there are several samples. There's a sample abstract, I think, which is really helpful, and then there are samples, examples of the cover letter, the letter of inquiry, a number of different things like that. So I think overall the book, and especially the new edition, has a lot of really good resources in the back of the book that you can use. For the abstract, I am a big fan of starting off stating specifically, like having a really specific paragraph that states, this is how much money we're requesting. Like, we are writing to request this amount of money for this organization, and then a brief, really clear, straightforward description of the project. And I think what this does is it really helps frame for the person who reads or reviews your grant to know exactly what your vision is and what you're proposing, and then that helps set up each section of the proposal that they'll read. So they start off knowing exactly what it is you're proposing, and so they have that vision of the project in their mind as they read through the proposal. In the example that they give in the book, the author actually laid out in bullet points the goals for the project. So they have an opening, paragraph or two talking about the project, but then they specifically list the goals they hope to accomplish through the project. I think that's a good approach. I recently wrote an executive summary, which is, the same as the same concept in a proposal as an abstract. And so, and they listed in the NOFO, in the Notice of Funding Opportunity, the guidelines for the grant, they had a list of questions they wanted answered in the proposal. And for the executive summary, I had a few paragraphs about the project we were proposing, and then I just bullet pointed and listed answers to each one of their questions. And then in parentheses put where there was more information in the grant. So if they wanted to know about our partner institution, I stated very clearly our partner institution is the University of Delhi, and then there's more information on our partner located in the methodology section. So I think, just being very explicit, very clear, and to the point in the abstract is the best approach. For the appendices, I give flexibility, so you can really decide what you want to include. The one thing that I think is a given is a resume or a curriculum vitae, and I assume that most people who are writing the proposal in the class are planning to be the project director. So in particular for the project director, or the person running the grant, which is the term principal investigator is often used in the grant world, you would want their CV or resume included in the grant. Under rare circumstances, I do think it makes you far more competitive if you have people identified who are going to work on the project and you have their resumes or CV. But barring that, sometimes what you can do is put a position description, the person you will put in that position to run the project, and you can have their information included. So yeah, I would definitely have your CV. That's pretty much required for this week. But the other things that you include, you could pick what suits you best. A documentation of your organization's 5013 status. That's usually just a printout. It's an easy page to get. You can have the agency budget, the overall budget for the nonprofit you're working with. More information about that project. I really like too, I think it's really helpful to sometimes show, if it's a nonprofit, the management or organization structure. So if you have a board of directors or board of trustees for the nonprofit, and the nonprofit director answers to those people, I think it's really good to have a graphic sometimes too that shows how that works. The other thing that, and a tip that I wanted to give you for grant writing, is early on, it's really, really helpful as soon as you start the proposal process to think about organizations you can partner with or that will show support for your project. And it's really, really helpful to have letters of support from those organizations or offices. One example is when I've written, grants on behalf of Ball State or for projects that we want to work on through Ball State. I've even had, the president's office to show at the highest level of administration there's support for the overall project. And Sponsored Programs Administration can help organize those letters. But one key piece that I have to tell you is it's essential for you. I have just found you always have to write the letters. It's very rare that anyone will know kind of how to craft your letter and we'll get it to you in the right amount of time. So what I do is I reach out, I ask if they're willing to support the project, and then I draft a letter and I send it to them, and then I let them amend the letter, revise the letter. But for grants, one of the things you have to do as a grant writer is really be proactive and take those steps to write the letters, draft the letters, and then have them modify and sign them and return them to you. And for the purposes of the class, if you want to just include that draft letter of support in the proposal, that would be more than enough, or that would be fine. Like, I understand if you're not going to get it signed and back to you from an organization in this time. But any organization that the grant reviewer, it would help them to know is supportive. So, if you're planning to do this project, the whole project could fall apart, for example, if you don't have the support of a certain organization. So if you wanted to do research in a local school district, you're going to need to have that school district. You're going to want to have something signed from them, a letter clearly stating that they're supportive of your project and the work you're intending to do. And then again, that helps leave any kind of reservations that the grant reviewer would have. You could have resumes or information on other project staff, annual reports from your organization, even news articles or news clippings, things like that can be helpful to give a little more information about the organization that's requesting the funding. Those are things that are all helpful. And so you can, for the purposes of the assignment this week, you can pick which ones you think would fit best or would best support your project. And then, before the end of the class, you can add something, I think, if you think that would be helpful, or if you think it would make your grant stronger, you can kind of add that in the future. Other things that they talk about this for the week that you can include would be a table of contents. I don't think for a proposal the size we're doing, it's necessary, but you could include that. Again, the cover letter or the cover page. Cover pages are usually pretty basic. Like for grants, they generally just state the name of the organization, maybe the amount requested, the title of the project, some of the key information. So title page sometimes can be helpful, or letters of inquiry I don't really ask for. But that's something in the future, like especially with foundation grants, you can really find out from the funder if they're interested, or if what you're proposing is something that's on their radar for funding, and that can save you a lot of time. And if you send out a group of letters of inquiry, you can get information from a number of different foundations before really determining which one it's best to submit to for funding. So I hope some of these are helpful. And if you have any questions, please contact me, let me know. I'd be happy to review anything that you're working on, or review letters of support, things like that, before you include them in the assignment this week.